Okay, let's keep moving with our layout here. Let's go and handle some of the text duties related to our layout. I'm just going to go and pop my guides back on. Again, just Command or Control semicolon. And that's a toggle, by the way. You can turn your guides on and off, which is great. So as you're developing your layout, you can get a bit of a preview by turning your guides off. Now, I'm just going to zoom in sort of in the blue area there, just to the left of the photograph. This is where some of our text is going to wind up here. We have 3 pieces of text to add in here. So go ahead and hit your T key on your keyboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to single click roughly about here. And then I'm going to type in my first piece of text here, the Toronto mortgage, if I can speak here and read from my notes. And now what I'm going to do here, so the Toronto mortgage, and then I'm going to hit Shift Enter. And what that is that's a soft return or a forced line break, right? You've probably heard of that. Market, full colon space, and then 2011 trends. So the Toronto mortgage market 2011 trends, that's what we're after. Okay, grab my black arrow tool. Let's go and do some formatting here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and set my fill color. So just make sure that your fill color swatch at the bottom of the toolbox is on top. And then you can use your options bar if you wish. You can use your swatches panel over on the right, wherever you want. But I'm going to use white for this guy, just something like this. As far as the actual text formatting goes, again, you can stick with your options bar there, or you could even use your character palette if you wish. Oftentimes I use my character palette. If you want to use your character palette, by the way, he's underneath your window menu, but he's buried way down underneath the type submenu. So he's in there. You just got to look for him. So anyway, it doesn't really matter which way you decide to format your text. You're going to get the same result here, right? So I'm going to stick with this Myriad Pro. I'm going to switch to bold. And I'm going to crank up my font size. Let's see, I'm going to go up to 22, something like that, nice and big. There we go. All right, so there's our first piece of text there. Now I'm just going to move this guy over to the left and kind of line him up with the vertical guide that we created there. By the way, just while I think of it, this blue background that we added in here, he's still selectable, right? And he kind of gets in the way now that we're adding stuff on top of him. You know, if you're typing in some text or something and then you go to click away, well, you actually wind up selecting, another object by accident. You might accidentally move him or something. So I'm going to lock this guy down. And usually what I do to lock down an object is I just hit Command 2. And that'll lock that guy down. So now he's no longer selectable, right? We can always unlock him, though, if we need to. Okay, let's keep going with our text. Now, the next piece of text is a little bit longer. So back to the type tool, just hit the T key on your keyboard. And this time, I'm going to click and drag out a nice big box. And this is going to give us a text frame, right? Okay, here we go. Catch up on the latest trends, comma space, movements, comma space, and upcoming events. Go in the Toronto housing market in our exclusive 2011 trends guide. Okay, great. Now, if you ran out of space, if you didn't create a text box that was big enough to hold all of your text, no worries. Your text is still there. You just can't see it all, right? So as soon as we start formatting our text, hopefully your text should come back to life. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit Command A or Control A to select everything inside this text box. And here's the formatting that I'm going to use. I'm going to stick with my character palette here. Myriad Pro is fine. Bold is fine. I'm going to drop down the size to 12. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to adjust the leading. And that's this option right here. And if you don't know what your leading is, essentially what it is the space between your lines of text. Think of it as the vertical space in a paragraph, right? And I'm going to set a leading value of 18, something like this. And again, what that's going to do is just sort of let this breathe a little bit, right? Okay, perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the fill color for this guy as well. I have the text selected here, the text frame selected, fill color on top. Again, swatches palette or options bar, doesn't really matter. Something like that is great. I'm just going to scale down my the width of my frame here, something like this. I don't want any hyphenation there. There, something like that I think should be fine. There. Okay. You can set your vertical alignment there, your horizontal alignment. Again, I want it to line up with the guide that we created. I think that looks good. Okay, we've got one more piece of text. If you recall, there was a more link. It's soon to be a button or a link here with an arrow. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to hit the T key once again. This is our third piece of text. Single click, and this is going to be more all in uppercase, something like this. And as far as the formatting goes, we're going to change him to white in just a second. I'm going to stick with Myriad Pro, bold, 12 point for the size. Go ahead and set your fill color, just like that. And let's go and position him again against that vertical guide, something like that. Okay, great. Now, as for the triangle, this is something I always love to show. Any ideas, by the way, for how to create a triangle in Illustrator? You'll notice that there's no triangle tool in the toolbox. Sort of the one of those other things that sort of drives Illustrator users crazy, because you need a quick triangle. So in the past I've tried creating triangles by hand with the pen tool and stuff like this, and it's kind of a pain. So what I always wind up doing is, if I click and hold on the rectangle tool, I use the star tool. So check this out. I'm going to grab the star tool and I'm going to click and drag out a star. And you might be going, what's up with the star? We don't need a star. We need a triangle. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can use your up arrow and down arrow to add or remove points on a star. So I'm going to create a 3-pointed star, otherwise known as a triangle. So there you go. There's the triangle tool. He's sort of an elusive hidden tool in Illustrator. Hold down the Shift key if you want to create your triangle perfectly straight up and down, like this. There we go, something like that. I'm going to grab my black arrow tool. Let's rotate him around. I'm going to bring my cursor just outside of the bounding box there, and click and drag, hold down Shift to lock down that rotation, and position this guy up, something like that. And I'm going to scale him down, holding Option and Shift and dragging on a corner, or Alt and Shift and dragging on a corner there on the PC side. There, something like that. I think that's pretty darn close anyway to what we had earlier. Let me just zoom out here, turn off the guides. Maybe at this point what we'd want to do is just adjust some of our vertical alignment here. When you're moving your content, as I'm doing here, I don't want to wind up, accidentally shoving it to the left or to the right. So to constrain my movements to only vertical movements, I'm holding down the Shift key as I'm dragging. Now be careful, because that'll still work for horizontal as well. So I'm being very careful to hold down Shift and drag either straight up or straight down, something like this, right? So you might want to take a moment and just sort of, set things up sort of in a visually appealing manner, something like this. Maybe try and space this stuff out evenly, something like that. This is throwing me off. If I just tuck that bottom up there, it looks pretty darn close, that blue space between the text there. Anyway, I will leave it to all up to you to fiddle around with getting your alignment set up, but I think mine looks pretty darn good. Make sure to save your layout. I think the only thing that we have left now is just the content that's going to run across the bottom of the layout.